I speak to you today not as a distant figure from the past, but as though I were standing in your time, surrounded by the complexities and confusions of the modern world. You may know me as Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, yet what I wish to share with you now is not merely theory or abstract speculation. It is practical advice, psychological tools fused with the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, designed to help you focus on what truly matters, the repair of your own life. There is a temptation in every age, and perhaps especially in yours, to look outward. People immerse themselves in the chaos of politics, in endless arguments online, in the scandals of others. They give opinions, they judge, they criticize. But what they fail to do is turn inward, to confront the far greater battle, the struggle with themselves. As I observed in my own time, most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The Stoics understood this long before I did. They urged man to control only what lies within his power, and to let go of all else. Today, you live in a society where distractions are infinite, where attention is stolen from you every moment. To live as a Stoic now means to reclaim your inner authority, to master your impulses, your desires, and your fears, to live with psychological integrity. So let us begin this journey together. Over the course of these 7 exercises, I will offer not only the Stoic principle but also my own interpretation, grounded in the discoveries of the unconscious, repression, and the deep conflicts that shape human life. Each exercise is a weapon against inner chaos. Each is a way to focus not on changing the world first, but on healing yourself. The first Stoic exercise I give to you is this. Examine your thoughts daily as if you were a stranger observing them. The Stoics called this self-scrutiny, and I would call it analysis. The thoughts that emerge in your mind are not all truly yours. Many are residues of forgotten experiences, of wounds you suffered long ago, of desires you never fulfilled, of fears you never faced. They masquerade as your voice, yet they are often the whispers of the unconscious. In your age, men and women are constantly reacting, scrolling through images, responding to stimuli, never pausing. They believe they are free, yet they are slaves to hidden compulsions. By examining your thoughts daily, by writing them down, by asking, why did I react this way? What wound does this thought conceal? You begin the process of liberation. Fixing your life begins here, with brutal honesty, with the courage to admit that not every impulse is noble, not every belief is rational, and not every desire is truly yours. The Stoics asked for discipline. I ask for insight. Together, these create the foundation for change. As we continue, I will unfold the remaining exercises, each one designed to strip away illusions and to awaken in you the power to reshape your life. But remember this. The first step is always the hardest. To turn your gaze inward, to face the unknown within yourself. That is the true beginning of transformation. The second Stoic exercise I place before you is this. Distinguish between what is in your control and what is not. This seems simple, almost too obvious. And yet it is precisely where most men ruin themselves. They spend their lives raging against what they cannot influence, while neglecting the only domain that is truly theirs. Their own thoughts, choices, and actions. The Stoics insisted that peace of mind comes from this distinction. But let me add my own understanding. In psychoanalysis, we discover that man is driven by unconscious forces, urges, and fears he does not fully recognize. You may believe you control yourself, but in truth, you are often a puppet of past traumas, hidden desires, and anxieties that erupt without warning. You seek to control the external world because you cannot face the lack of control within. This is why so many in your time are obsessed with control. They control their diet obsessively, they track every calorie. They control their schedule to the minute. They control others through manipulation, through anger, through subtle guilt. But beneath all this is fear, the fear of chaos inside themselves. So, the Stoic discipline of recognizing what is not yours to control must be paired with psychoanalytic honesty. Ask yourself, why do I cling to this illusion of power? What is it I fear will happen if I let go? For often, your attempts to dominate the world around you are defenses against confronting your own vulnerability. Take for example your relationships. Many men and women try to control their partners. What they say, where they go, how they think. But you cannot control another human soul. You can influence, you can inspire, you can harm, yes, but their inner world is theirs alone. When you attempt to control it, you invite resentment and despair. Or consider your health. You can control how you eat, how you train, how you rest. But you cannot control entirely whether illness comes, or when death arrives. And yet, if you spend your life in terror of sickness or in denial of mortality, you will have wasted your years in futile resistance. The truth is stark. Life will wound you, it will bring suffering, it will end in death. None of this is under your command. But how you meet these truths, that belongs to you. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." I would add, to find strength, you must not only discipline your conscious mind but also uncover what lurks beneath it. Your anger, your envy, your secret guilt. These are not controlled by denial. They are only controlled when brought to light, examined, and understood. Thus the second exercise is this. Each day write 2 lists. In the first, write what is within your power, your actions, your habits, your responses. In the second, write what lies beyond. Other people's opinions, chance events, the past. Then observe. How much of your anxiety comes from the second list? How much of your wasted effort is spent fighting what can never be tamed? You will find that peace is not passive surrender but the courage to focus only on what belongs to you. That is where freedom begins. The third Stoic exercise I give you is this. Practice moderation, for unchecked desire enslaves you. In every age, human beings chase pleasure as if it were the ultimate prize of existence. They drink, they eat, they lust, they consume, believing that the next indulgence will quiet the hunger inside. But I tell you, as both a psychoanalyst and a man who observed countless souls, unchecked desire does not bring freedom, it brings bondage. The Stoics warned that pleasure, when pursued blindly, turns into chains. I discovered the same truth in the unconscious. Much of what you call pleasure is not genuine joy but an attempt to silence inner conflict. A man overeats not because he loves food, but because food numbs his emptiness. A woman seeks constant validation not because she truly values herself, but because the echoes of old wounds demand reassurance. Pleasure becomes a bandage for wounds that remain unhealed. Today, your society is built on the tyranny of pleasure. Advertisements scream at you, buy this, eat that, watch more, want more. Every moment is an invitation to excess. And the result? Anxious men, restless women, individuals who cannot sit in silence without feeling the itch of desire gnawing at them. To practice moderation is therefore not to reject pleasure, but to reclaim your freedom from it. The Stoics would say, enjoy the wine, but do not be owned by it. From my perspective, I urge you to go deeper. Ask yourself why you seek what you seek. If the drive for pleasure is rooted in avoidance, of grief, of loneliness, of guilt, then indulgence will never satisfy you. You will only circle endlessly around the wound you refuse to confront. So here is your exercise. Choose one pleasure you often overindulge in: food, drink, entertainment, lust, and abstain from it for 7 days. Do not merely abstain. Observe what arises in its absence. Do you feel anger, anxiety, emptiness? These emotions reveal the truth. You are not addicted to the pleasure itself, but to the relief it provides from hidden suffering. Let me be clear. This is not about punishment. I am not urging you to become a monk. Life without pleasure is sterile, but life ruled by pleasure is slavery. True strength lies in balance, the ability to enjoy without being consumed, to desire without being dominated. The Stoic Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And I add, the man who does not understand the source of his craving will never escape poverty of the soul. To master your desires is not to destroy them, but to bring them into harmony with your reason and your deeper self. When you no longer run from your wounds, you no longer need to drown them in excess. This is how moderation becomes not a denial of life, but a richer, fuller participation in it. Remember, pleasure that is chosen freely is joy. Pleasure that controls you is chains. Break them, and you begin to live as both a Stoic and a man who has faced his unconscious. The fourth Stoic exercise I offer you is this: do not flee from suffering, endure it and let it strengthen you. In every human life, suffering is inevitable. The Stoics taught this with clarity. Pain, loss, disappointment, and death are not accidents, they are woven into the fabric of existence. To resist this truth is to guarantee misery. To accept it, and to endure it with dignity, is to gain strength that no pleasure can give. From my own perspective, suffering is not only unavoidable but also essential. In psychoanalysis, I found that people often live in denial of their pain. They repress grief, they bury trauma, they silence the wounds of childhood, thinking that if they hide them deep enough, they will vanish. But the unconscious never forgets. The pain you refuse to face does not disappear. It returns in disguise. It shows itself in anxiety, in anger, in failed relationships, in restless nights. You may believe you are escaping suffering, but in truth, you are only prolonging it. The Stoics knew this long ago. Epictetus, once a slave, declared, "Suffering arises not from the events themselves but from our judgment about them." And I would add, suffering becomes destructive only when you deny it, when you allow it to twist in the shadows of your unconscious. So here is your exercise. When pain comes, do not numb it, do not flee from it, do not deny it. Instead, face it directly. Write it down, speak it aloud, or reflect on it in silence. Ask yourself, what does this suffering reveal about me? What wound does it expose? What truth have I been avoiding? This is not an easy task. To endure suffering is to resist the modern world's demand that you medicate, distract, or entertain yourself out of every discomfort. Your age has created endless escapes, endless scrolling, endless substances, endless distractions. But if you never face your pain, you remain a child running from shadows. Suffering, embraced consciously, becomes a teacher. Strips away illusions. It reveals who you are when comfort is gone. For a man between 35 and 55, this lesson is especially vital. By now, you have already tasted loss, of opportunities, of relationships, perhaps even of loved ones. You may have felt the weight of aging, the fear of mortality. These are not curses. They are reminders that you are alive, and that life demands courage. Think of suffering as fire. If you run from it, it will chase you, consuming you from behind. But if you stand within it with steady breath, it forges you like steel. The Stoics taught this discipline. Psychoanalysis confirms it. The unconscious will torment you with unresolved pain until you turn and face it. Only then can it be transformed. Thus, the fourth exercise is not to seek suffering but to accept it. To meet it with the thought, this too is part of life. This too is an opportunity for strength. For it is not the man who avoids suffering who becomes wise, but the man who endures it with awareness, and who allows it to sharpen his spirit. That is how suffering ceases to be an enemy and becomes your greatest ally. The fifth Stoic exercise I offer you is this. Remember that you will die. To many, this sounds grim, even morbid. In your modern culture, death has become the great taboo. People speak endlessly of pleasure, of health, of progress, yet they whisper about death, as if silence could keep it away. But denial is the root of neurosis. The fear of death, repressed, unspoken, returns in hidden ways. In your anxieties, in your obsessions, in the restless pursuit of distractions that keep you from confronting your finitude. The Stoics, however, turned toward death. They spoke of Memento Mori, the daily remembrance that life ends. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning that he would not live forever, that this day might be his last. To modern ears this sounds harsh, but I assure you it is liberating. When you accept death, you begin to live. From my own work I would say this. Fear of death is not only fear of the end, it is fear of insignificance. Deep within, every human being wrestles with the question, does my life matter? Will I leave something behind? Repression of this question leads to endless substitutes. The hunger for fame, the desperate need for wealth, the obsession with youth. All these are ways to deny mortality. So here is your exercise. Contemplate your death daily, not as terror but as a guide. Ask yourself, if this were my final year, how would I live? If this were my final day, what would I say, what would I do, what would I cease to postpone? The Stoics taught that remembering death frees you from trivial pursuits. You realize how little time is worth wasting on resentment, on gossip, on vanity. Instead, you turn your energy toward what is meaningful: love, creation, virtue, truth. I would add, reflecting on death also helps you confront your unconscious fears. In analysis, many discover that their anxieties about failure, aging, or illness are masks for a deeper dread: the inevitability of death. By facing it directly, you remove its power to haunt you. For a man between 35 and 55, this exercise is essential. By this age, youth has passed, and mortality becomes harder to ignore. You may notice gray hair, slower recovery, or the first health scares. Do not run from these signs. They are reminders that life is finite, and therefore precious. When you embrace Memento Mori, you stop living as if life were rehearsal. You begin to live deliberately, with urgency and clarity. You no longer postpone what truly matters, nor waste yourself on what does not. As the Stoic Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And I say, to confront death is not to be enslaved by it, but to use it as a compass. When death becomes your teacher, every moment becomes a chance to live more fully. Thus, the fifth exercise is not despair, but freedom. The freedom that comes when you stop running from the truth and start shaping your life in its light. The sixth and final Stoic exercise I present to you is this: live according to virtue, for character is destiny. The Stoics believed that the highest good was not wealth, not pleasure, not even survival, but virtue, the alignment of one's life with reason, justice, courage, and self-control. They insisted that no man can truly be harmed if he lives with integrity, for while fortune may strip him of possessions, reputation, even health, it cannot touch his inner character. I have often observed, in my own time and now in yours, that many men live divided lives. Outwardly, they present a face of strength, confidence, success. Inwardly, they are fractured, torn by hidden desires, unresolved guilt, unacknowledged fears. This division breeds neurosis, for the unconscious will not remain silent forever. It speaks through dreams, through anxiety, through self-sabotage. To live with virtue, therefore, requires not only Stoic discipline but also psychoanalytic honesty. You must bring into the light what lies hidden within you. You must face your contradictions, acknowledge your weaknesses, and take responsibility for your choices. Virtue is not a mask you wear. It is the integration of your conscious and unconscious self into a life of coherence. So here is your final exercise. Each evening, review your day. Ask yourself, did I act with justice toward others? Did I act with discipline toward myself? Did I act with courage in the face of fear? Did I act with honesty, even when it cost me? If the answer is no, do not despair. Instead, resolve to do better tomorrow. For virtue is not perfection. It is the constant practice of aligning your actions with your highest values. The Stoics would say that virtue is sufficient for happiness. I would add, virtue is also the cure for much of the inner conflict that torments modern men. When your actions align with your values, the unconscious has less cause to rebel. When you live with integrity, you silence much of the inner noise that leads to anxiety and despair. For men between 35 and 55, this lesson is crucial. By this age, you are no longer simply seeking to build a life. You are living the consequences of the choices you have made. Perhaps you carry regrets. Perhaps you feel trapped by old patterns. But virtue remains always within reach. You cannot undo the past, but you can choose how you live today. And in choosing rightly, you redeem what came before. The goal is not to escape suffering, nor to achieve endless pleasure, nor to control the world. The goal is to become a man who lives with clarity, courage, and responsibility. A man who does not waste his short life on illusions, but who fixes what is his to fix, himself. This is the freedom both the Stoics and I sought. Freedom not from the laws of life, but from the chains of illusion. Freedom not from death, but from fear. Freedom not from desire, but from enslavement to it. So I leave you with this. Focus only on fixing your life. Begin with your thoughts, your discipline, your endurance, your acceptance of death, and above all, your practice of virtue. In doing so, you will discover that the world changes, not because you have conquered it, but because you have mastered yourself.